Thurgood, about a week or so ago, we wrote about what the Trump campaign strategy was when it came to winning the election. And it was a twofold strategy. One, obviously, gin up his base, rev up his base, get his base to vote, but also keep people who might have voted for Biden from staying home. This is with all the controversy around, the ain't black comment. The Trump campaign is taking advantage of it this way. How do you read this type of strategy?
Okay. Well, I actually wonder, but not following back on our article, but I do wonder whether this one actually might backfire, to be honest. I'm having trouble trying to keep a straight face as we discuss this, but and I guess we could no longer use the word deplorable. We can no longer use the word racist. So I'll just say it's sort of ignorant. But I do wonder whether there's a bit of a parallel to the old push callers, the push pollsters, who under the guise of polling for one campaign, actually were trying to drive other voters in the wrong direction. And so while I'm not sure whether this fits quite into the suppression angle that we had talked about, I do wonder whether if this gets enough press, it starts to stir up Democratic base voters in a way that the Trump-Pence campaign might not have anticipated. I also wonder, it'll be interesting to see how much money they make off of that idea. I'm not sure we're going to see a lot of those shirts, but they may sell a lot of them.
Peter?
I think it, obviously Joe can't make another one of these, race-based gaffes in the next week or so. He can make a few, another one next month or so, but not the next week or so. But I see this more as political jujitsu, as you guys talked about. It's been a very difficult week for not only Donald Trump. I thought the Joe Biden ad, him golfing while the death rate in the United States reached 100,000. I mean, 100,000 was very tough. And I also thought the Lincoln Project ad on Trump's campaign manager was also very difficult. And that just spurs a response. I'm not sure it's going to move any voters one way or another, but it's good political theater.
So do you see the two campaigns just devolving further into the mud from now until November, or are there going to be? Will the Biden campaign have to come up with a way to talk about what it is for, or is it enough to say we don't need 4 more years?
Well, I think he is going to have to come up with some fairly broad economic and inspiring plans. But I, as you know, I also believe he can't remain silent and just be a whipping boy to this lunatic, and his tweet storms every weekend. I mean, he was really out of control again this weekend. But we say that almost every weekend. So, but I do think at some point Biden is going to have to inspire us. Perhaps he should look to the New Deal. We're going to have unemployment upwards of 15% come election day. There's a lot of national infrastructure projects that he could tout. But I think I like to see him responding. He has to Trump.
Well, and Thurgood, with the obviously with the whole world focused on the pandemic, the really Biden's next chance to do this in a big way, of course, is VP pick. Is all of this going to play into the VP pick? The ain't black comments, the need for inspiration, the being stuck in the basement, or what will or should go into his VP choice?
I think that as much as my initial reaction with this was that to assume that potential candidates of color like Kamala Harris might move up in the rankings, we're still a month or two away from that decision, and as this week demonstrates, a lot of things can happen and change between now and then. So I'm still waiting to see. I think the bottom line is probably going to be, barring some extraordinary event intervening, bottom line is still going to be who gives you the best chance of winning. And so that does bring us back to the key target states and possible VP choices who can help deliver there.
Yeah. And then last question, we'll throw it open, start with you, Peter. Donald Trump is always blaming someone. He's blaming Obama, he's blaming China. Now he wants to have a big raucous convention. He probably can't have one. So now he's going to blame the governor of North Carolina, who's a Democrat. There's a story he may threaten to move the convention to Doral, of course, his resort. Do you think this is smart strategy for Trump to be blaming the governor of North Carolina on not being able to have a Republican convention there? Or is this part of his being unhinged on Twitter?
Well, I think he thinks it's smart, right? And that's all that counts. He thinks it's smart because it puts the Democratic governor in a bind, he thinks. I think this governor has been pretty solid. He should play it by the books. And in the end, let the president and the Republicans make their own choices. He should protect his citizens as far as his citizens want to be protected. So, I mean, I don't think they're going to move the convention anyplace. Now, there may be some social distancing, but if we have a really massive increase in cases in about 10 days from now, it's going to show just how deadly the lack of social distancing, the deadly outcomes of the lack of social distancing. And I think the debate over the convention is going to go on for a couple of more weeks.
Thurgood, do you think they'll have a convention in North Carolina?
Interesting question. I'm wondering whether we're going to see a bit of a bidding war between Florida and Texas. And of course, the wild card is the fact that there's a Trump resort in Florida. But I have found that the issue to be interesting because some of the analysis, Bloomberg and elsewhere have pointed out, seemingly without an awareness of the current situation, that the hotel bookings and restaurant bookings during convention weeks tend to not be as huge a positive impact on municipal budgets and revenues as one might imagine. But if they're able to gather a significant enough, a sizable enough group of people, given the hit that the hospitality industry has taken over the last couple of weeks, this is a situation where there's going to be a noticeable positive impact on revenue if they move it and put it somewhere. So North Carolina could be looking at missing out on some revenues, but then again, you get back to what Peter's saying, where it's at what cost, and that's a very hard thing to game out. So I've now successfully avoided your question, but if I had to bet, I would bet that some form of a Republican convention will occur as planned in North Carolina, but it's going to be scaled back.
Well, I think, and for our next topic, next week or 2 weeks from now, I think if we see a spike in the next 2 weeks of cases because of the lack of social distancing on Memorial Day in certain places, that's going to drive the debate one way. But if we don't see that spike, and you may not see a spike in 14 days, then you're going to get the chorus, see, you Democrats, you liberal media, you've been overplaying this, and then you're going to see the real battle come out between the two parties, making COVID partisan, which is so hard to believe that would have happened.
But you're absolutely right, Steve. It's breaking down over red state, blue state, conservative, moderate, over whether you social distance or whether you don't, whether you believe, that the virus is as dangerous as it's been advertised, and it's become politicized. And the president has been at the point in doing that, and he sees benefit for himself by doing it.
Yeah, I don't know. Hard to imagine that we've gotten to this point in the country, but I guess it's been where we've been headed for the last 10 years or so, maybe 20.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, on that cheery note, we'll talk. We'll talk next
We'll
week.
talk in a week.
Yeah.